Well, bienvenidos, everybody. And there's probably like very few, if anyone here, but this is another little test session that I'm doing here on my personal YouTube channel, Enfuegotainment. So I guess I will just get things started off proper for those who do not end up catching this live. So yes. Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm Jaime En Fuego, and welcome to Enfuegotainment. This is me doing just a little bit of live discussion about my most anticipated films of the year of 19. That's right, 2019. Yeah, the year of 19 being so significant in Stephen King culture, which I absolutely adore. And it's Leroy Buchanan, if that is your real name, good sir. But yeah, y'all. So there is a ton of stuff that is coming out in the year of 19. And I talked about a few of them on the horror show of the scarific variety, obviously. And so if we're going to be, just having any interest in that, obviously jump onto the horror show and check that out, where we talk about all of our scarific, just most anticipated. I believe that if I recall correctly, I know In the Tall Grass was on there, which is going to be a Netflix original from the director of Splice and Cube. And then I was also incredibly curious about this Pet Sematary remake from the Starry Eyes team. But so I'm not here to talk about most anticipated horror, obviously. And boy, I guess maybe I should just go through like a massive honorable mentions list, which I have right here first and foremost. And it's as I'm looking at it, a lot of these are horror, and so since I don't cover horror on Enfuegotainment, this is where I talk about everything else that's coming through. That's kind of gonna be the point of this. I'm just gonna throw out a link to this live broadcast really quick so that anybody who might want to jump on has the ability. Okay, talking my most anticipated 2019 films live now. Bam, bam, bam. Jump over any peeps who might feel inclined. Biggity bam. Okay. And I'll just do the little, because Fuego, yeah. Fuego, exclamation point, hard rock sign, yeah. And one thing that I want to mention here, guys, is that eventually, as I transition this to a proper set and everything, as I'm slowly kind of relaunching Enfuegotainment content and stuff like that, I want this to be more of like a news of the day kind of thing, where I'll talk about any cool stories that broke, where I'll talk about, just stuff that I'm digging and vibing right now, and just make it into more of a comprehensive full-on podcast kind of thing. I am going to start recording this, with microphone proper, as we're here in the Chiron Cavern. Yeah, you can see there's many mics and recording devices and things like that here, where I rehearse with my band Chiron, which if you have any interest in checking out the heavy metal with yelling and screaming and singing, though we do a little bit of both. Yeah, that's on it's on Reverb Nation, reverbnation.com/Chiron, CHIRON band AZ. So Chiron band AZ. And I eventually want to just make this more of a proper full-on production here in the coming days and weeks. But I want Enfuegotainment Live. I was originally going to call it Nightly Nerd News, but I don't know. I mean, I'm really trying to brand Enfuegotainment. I own the .com. I want to start doing some written pieces on there, and so I'm just trying to expand the brand as best I can after sitting on it for quite some time. As the horror show grew, I stopped paying as much attention to my own solo channel, where I can cover superhero stuff, where I can cover indie dramatic films, and where I can cover comedies and shoot 'em ups, action films, shit like that, And so that is this most anticipated list that I'm going to end up running through here in a few minutes is basically going to be me telling you everything that's not horror that I'm super stoked about. But if I'm going to do like quick ass lightning round craziness for just everything else, even of the scarific variety that I'm excited about, there is so much coming out in 2019. It's just it's astounding. I'm going to see if anybody else has jumped on. Eric Griffin, hey everybody, what up? And yep, going to sleep. Going to see this tomorrow. Peace out, Jaime. Well, thank you so very much for at least stopping on briefly, good sir. But yeah, long story short, peeps, there is the first film of the new year that I'm supremely excited to check out, and I guess it would be kind of considered of the horror variety. It comes out this weekend, at least here in the States, and that's Glass. Cecil and I will be seeing it tomorrow night and presumably doing a review right afterwards. So that's definitely one, the culmination of this M. Night Shyamalan trilogy. Just going to take a sip of my coffee right there. And yeah, the Shyamalan trilogy, which entails Unbreakable and Split. Reviews have been mixed about this one so far, but I loved Split. I loved Unbreakable. I still contend Unbreakable is Shyamalan's best movie. So we have that coming through. We also have David Harbour rebooting with Dog Soldiers director Hellboy, which I'm very excited about. Ian McShane is in that. I mean, the cast is pretty insane in that movie. But once again, these are all kind of the horror variety. I'm really hoping that Josh Boone's New Mutants doesn't get delayed again, and that is supremely badass. That's going to be coming out in August. Toy Story 4. Did we need a Toy Story 4? No, not really, but that's one that I'm at least curious about. 3 was supremely exciting and interesting. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, that's going to be cool. The Pet Sematary remake is, as I mentioned earlier, one of my most anticipated. Jordan Peele's follow-up, Us, looks awesome. It Chapter 2, cautiously optimistic about that. We'll see how that all goes. Detective Pikachu, I thought sounded stupid on paper, and then all of a sudden it was just like, hey, if it's just the kid who is hearing the proper voice, I'm totally okay with that. And yes, in any event, The Lion King, the kind of live action, can it be called live action if there is no human person, if every single creature is digitized? I don't necessarily know, but I'm very curious to see what Jon Favreau does with it. Frozen 2, I wish they would just let it go, but hey, it is what it is. The Irishman, which is the Scorsese film that was somehow able to bring Joe Pesci out of retirement. I'm very curious about that. We got Pacino, you have De Niro. It's we don't have a distinctive and definitive release date just yet, which is one thing that's kind of a bummer. Spider-Man: Far From Home coming out this summer. All of the Marvel films that we're getting this year, whether it's Captain Marvel, whether it's this one, I mean, there's quite the slate, I have to say. Shazam from the DC side of things is another one that I am super curious about. It's supposedly going to be like the big of the DC films, and Aquaman just crossed 1 billion doll hairs today. I was not a big fan of Aquaman. I mean, Momoa is likable, and the first and the third act were pretty good, but the movie dragged seriously when it turned into a romantic comedy in the second act, and it was romancing the stone. It was not, and that's where I felt like they were taking some significant cues. But I'm really curious about Shazam. I like the fact that you've got one of those kids from It in it, and yeah, I'm curious to see where they go. Jumanji 3, the sequel to Welcome to the Jungle, is another one that's coming out this December that I'm supremely curious about. Dino, my dude, what is up? Mark Pearson jumping on too, man. How's it going, bro, sir? But yeah, I'm just currently going through some of my honorable mentions for most anticipated of 2019. And so Shazam is another one. Jumanji 3. I was surprisingly very entertained by Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. The cast was great, whether it was Kevin Hart, whether it was La Roca, Mr. Rock, he is badass, but really what killed it for me was Jack Black playing a teenage girl, has Spencer and all that. So flippin' funny. And Karen Gillan is a mega babe. It's ridiculous. And yet the script was funny. It was very self-aware. I ended up enjoying the fact that they went into video game culture and stuff. So that was awesome. Now we go into a sequel and remake city. As I mentioned, the fact that I'm very curious about the Jacob's Ladder remake, even though the original is one of my absolute favorite films of the 90s. I think it's an insanely underrated horror movie. The Child's Play remake, I'm super curious about. I love me some Aubrey Plaza. Aubrey Plaza be still my heart, mainly from the Safety Not Guaranteed, but from pretty much anything she's in. Whether it's Life After Beth, whether it's, I mean, she's terrific, and I love the hell out of her. So I'm very curious about just a new take on that property. But I'm not here to extensively talk about horror. I'm eventually going to get into just what I am most stoked about. But Zombieland 2, that's another sequel. I'm still really curious if that's going to make the release date in October that everybody's talking about. The Addams Family. We have an animated Addams Family film that is coming. Charlize Theron voicing Morticia. You're going to have Oscar Isaac voicing Gomez. I'm really, really stoked about that particular film. It is. I was thinking originally it was going to be like a VOD streaming service kind of thing, but apparently it is going theatrical, which is cool. Alita Battle Angel. We did a trailer reaction for that on the horror show. Robert Rodriguez is one of my favorite directors of all time. From Dusk Till Dawn is my favorite vampire movie. I adore the first Sin City, even if the second one disappointed me severely and significantly. But Desperado is kick-ass. I mean, he's a homie of Tarantino, and so anything that Robert Rodriguez does, I love Planet Terror. I will watch anything that homie does. So moving on. More horror stuff, because this is me just jumping through the horror real quick before I go into my list proper. Happy Death Day to You. I'm super stoked about that movie. The first one was, in fact, a horror Groundhog's Day, and it was terrific. Yeah, Zombieland 2 due this year, I think. Yep, it's coming out in October. They've actually dated it, Mark, so we'll see if they end up actually making that release date. But all of those big time cast members are coming back. You've got you have Woody Harrelson. You have Lex Luthor himself, whose name I totally cannot remember. But Emma Stone returning is possibly the biggest and most surprising for me. Abigail Breslin, she's great. She was really good in Maggie, the one with Schwarzenegger, where she was becoming infected and everything. So Jesse Eisenberg, that's the name of little dude. But Dino, you were so right, man. Let the Right One In, Near Dark. Those are in. I mean, those two, the original Fright Night. I love my Fanger films. I mean, you guys know I've played a vampire in a short film that we did on the horror show. But if I'm going to speed through the last couple things here, In the Tall Grass, that's going to be a Netflix one. I mentioned that earlier. We have Grudge, which is a remake of that franchise. We'll see if it's any good. We did a trailer reaction for the new film from the writer and director of Nightcrawler just yesterday for the horror show called Velvet Buzzsaw. Gyllenhaal, Toni Collette. That cast is stacked, and damn, does that movie look good. It's maybe in some people's estimation of the pretentious artistic variety, but I'm all for it. Another one that will be covered on the horror show is The Lighthouse. It's the new film from Robert Eggers. He's the guy behind Marsha and Cecil's favorite film, The Witch, with the two V's, De Vich. I love De Vich. I love the hell out of that film, in fact. So I'm very curious to see what he does with Robert Pattinson and an interesting cast of peeps. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is another one. Those books scared the crap out of me as a kid, more so for the artwork than for the storytelling, although the one about the beating the Indian drum was supremely badass. Three from Hell, we don't know if the new Rob Zombie film is actually going to be released this year or not. Everybody is presuming that is going to be the case, but he still hasn't dated it. It's the third in the series of films that included Devil's Rejects, which I think might be his best film, although I love Lords of Salem, and I feel like that film, at least as far as doing something drastically different, was very intriguing. A lot of people hate it. I love Lords of Salem, but House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and then we have Three from Hell coming. Maybe one of the last films that we're going to see Mr. Sid Hagen, unfortunately. But yes, let me see. What else do we have before I jump into my list proper? Chaos Walking. That is the new Doug Liman film. Doug Liman, one of my favorite directors, especially in the 90s. I mean, legit go and swingers, and then he even jumped into more action-centric stuff like Edge of Tomorrow, or Live Die Repeat, whatever the hell they ended up calling it. I never got to see the one where Tom Cruise is like the coke dealer. Yeah, never got around to seeing that. But Doug Liman is a very versatile and very talented director, and a dude that I like very much. Apparently, Chaos Walking is based on another one of these YAs, so we'll see if that's any good. Brightburn is another one to make mention of. We did a review or a trailer review / reaction on the horror show to that. It really looks like The Cape, Joe Hill's The Cape in a lot of ways. It's like, but not completely, at least in tone, and the fact that it's about the misuse of superpowers and stuff. And I love The Boys, which was written by Garth Ennis. That's badass and amazing. Yeah, Jerks Productions. What's up, Brandon? Awesome. So glad to see you at least stopping in very briefly, man. Lame about your Eagles. I was really hoping they were going to get it done when they were up 14-0 the other day. But yeah, so that's another one. Brightburn looks cool. Produced by Mr. Gunn. Yes. Drum fill for each film you pick. Yeah, wouldn't it be awesome, since I've got the set right behind me here in the Chiron Cavern. Where'd you go, Bernadette? That's another one that I'm very curious about. Richard Linklater is, for my money, one of the most versatile and diverse filmmakers that I've ever encountered. I love just how he is able to do something like School of Rock, and then he's able to do something like the Sunset trilogy, or the Before trilogy, I should say. Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, Before Midnight. He is amazing. And then he'll do stuff like Waking Life, which is a mind-blowingly badass film. Gets existential as hell, man. Scanner Darkly, it's same visual style, not quite as awesome. But I mean, he did Boyhood. He did Dazed and Confused, obviously. He did Slacker, which is amazing, which I didn't even get around to watching finally until just recently in the last year. And then I immediately went and picked up the Criterion edition. So Where'd You Go, Bernadette is his film with Cate Blanchett. Looks awesome. Under the Silver Lake is it's got Andrew Garfield. It's a comedic dramedy noir kind of thing about this. Garfield meets this chick, and he kind of has a crush on her right away. She's like a neighbor at his California complex, I believe, and then she goes missing, and it turns into kind of this mystery sort of thing. It's the new film from the It Follows director. I loved It Follows stylistically. The look was good. Not really much beyond that I loved, except for the soundtrack. So, that's a film that was originally going to come out last year. We did a trailer reaction on the horror show. It was delayed once again. So, Under the Silver Lake. Then we have Annabelle 3, and then we have You Were My Friend, which is the biopic that stars Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. That looks okay. Just like The Curse of La Llorona looks okay. High Life is the next A24 that comes out in April. Really stoked about that. It's a French, very old female director. She's in her 70s, but it's going to be her first English language film. It's got Robert Pattinson in it. And the premise, essentially, guys, check it out, is this. So there's all of these inmates in the future that are told they will all be freed if they agree to take part in this mission where they're going through a black hole to try to discover some new form of energy. And there's going to be all these weird sexual experiments done to them. Yeah, this sounds A24 as hell, doesn't it? But yeah, it's called High Life. It comes out in April. We're supposed to be receiving our first trailer this week. I'm stoked about that. Then you have Annabelle 3. I'm moderately excited about that. Aladdin, I'm not very excited about, which is the live-action Disney film. But I know it's on a lot of other people's radars, just like the Men in Black International, the continuation of that franchise. I was not impressed with that trailer. I thought it kind of sucked. And with Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth reteaming, I thought it was going to be pretty badass. Gemini Man is another one I have to make mention of, because Gemini Man is the new Will Smith film. It has kind of a futuristic vibe to it, directed by Ang Lee, who is amazing, whether he's doing stuff like Brokeback Mountain, which is more of the dramatic variety, whether he's doing Life of Pi, Ang Lee is great. He is tremendously badass. I'm really wondering what they're going to do with the Sonic the Hedgehog. kind of live action with the animation thrown in. That looks okay enough to me. Knives Out is the new Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson pissed a lot of people off with that most recent Star Wars episodic entry. You know, I was not a fan of The Last Jedi. I found merits in aspects of it, but as a whole, compared to The Force Awakens, I was very disappointed. In some ways, I had more fun with Solo. But if I was going to give an award to the best of the post-George Lucas Star Wars films, it would most definitely be Rogue One. I think Rogue One is the best thing that has happened since George Lucas decided to sell. But Rian Johnson is returning to his noir roots. He did a fantastic job with Looper, and Brick is one of my favorite noir, just kind of mystery, dramatic films of the last decade. I'm not a big Joseph Gordon-Levitt fan, but he brings out great things in him. And Knives Out, yeah, the cast that is being assembled for that new Rian Johnson return to that sort of filmmaking looks badass in my estimation. So we have that to look forward to. Piercing, from the director of The Eyes of My Mother. I was just rewatching the trailer when I was at the day job today with Luis, who also works at the same hotel that I do, this little boutique hotel in Phoenix. And Tim and I were just discussing just how much like American Psycho Piercing looks like. We did a trailer reaction on the horror show for that a few weeks ago, and it's got Mia something, I forget her name, but she's the chick who was in both of the Alice films, which were done by Burton, and then I forget the guy who did the sequel. I didn't particularly like either, but I didn't think she was bad in the role. I think she's an actress with a lot of capabilities, and Piercing looks wacky, I really have to say. And then as I'm rounding out here, finally, after 20-something minutes of possibilities, I'm really excited about Ari Aster's follow-up. Ari Aster is the guy who directed Hereditary. That was his debut. And damn, we just did, for the horror show Patreon yesterday, a commentary track for Hereditary. It was my third time watching it. So initially, when it was released by A24 last year, we did the press screening review, and then we did a spoilers discussion with Cody Leach, and boy, I'm trying to remember if CP from Willie Screedy was a part of it or not. But it's an amazing movie. Rewatching it, even a little bit of it at work again today. Lou and I just threw it on Prime, and when we were in between, just helping guests and stuff like that. And it's such a tremendous movie. I really hope everybody gets the chance to. It'll eventually be on the regular channel, so yeah, you'll be able to get all Hereditary with us. Marsha Parker had never watched it before, which was pretty dope. And I have to say, seeing Marsha's reaction to some of those big-time beats in Hereditary, priceless, man. And you guys will really enjoy getting the chance to see that. But he has a follow-up film coming up, and it's called Midsommar, and it's essentially about this couple who goes to Sweden for some sort of like festival. I'm assuming like a music festival of some sort. And lo and behold, they end up getting tied up with like a cult of some sort. And whereas Hereditary was very grounded in the family aspect and just spending a lot of time at the house and stuff like that, this is presumably gonna like open up the world, be more of a rural sort of film. And the tough thing with Hereditary, though, is that Oster really set the benchmark supremely high with that film. So I don't know. This is just hey, I can't wait to see what he does, and I'm not going to try to be judgmental about the sophomore slump and so on and so forth and whatnot. Will we be getting more streams here, Fuego? That's what Dino just asked, man. And gracias, Mark, for saying we need more Enfuegotainment. I'm in the process. These, like this and my best of 2018 video, were kind of me testing the waters with getting back into doing stuff on my own channel. And that's not to say that we are taking anything away from the horror show or my interaction with it. But I do kind of crave having my own personal outlet to just cover whatever the hell I want. And hey, what's up, Trent Davis? My name is Fuego, not Cecil. Anyway, though, Yeah, I just need that outlet. I have purchased Enfuegotainment.com. That's where I want to actually have some written work, because even before I joined the horror show, before I was doing heavy metal television, before I started getting more into doing this sort of video coverage, I was a print journalist from 2009 until about 2013 or so. So I wrote for magazines, I wrote for a couple different websites and stuff. And so, yeah, it's doing print is still a passion of mine, because I was a writer since I was, back in grade school and coming up with ideas and things like that. But yeah, so there will be more streams here, and it's not a conflict of interest with the horror show. This is just me wanting to have a personal outlet to do these sort of things. So after going through that laundry list of all of the other horror and just anticipated films that didn't make the cut, so to speak, here, I'm finally going to run through my most anticipated that I'm aware of so far for 2019. And that's the thing, guys, is that we know there's going to be some small films that sneak through and that we find out about as the year goes on, especially since I love art house cinema. Cecil is not big into dramatic, like low budge kind of art house, whatever, filmmaking and stuff like that. I mean, him and I have a similar sense of humor in the fact that we love South Park. We love, things of that nature, and especially really sharp and socially conscientious animated stuff. And we love shoot 'em ups, and we love our comic movies and stuff like that. Cecil actually knows probably way more about comics than I do. He's read a whole lot more. My initiation isn't where it's at. But long story short, I need this outlet for covering these sort of things. And yeah, guys, so I'm gonna start at right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so the only one that, because I wanted this list to go to 11, and I wanted it to be my 11 most anticipated of next year. The one that I am just going to say is a maybe, because of the fact that even though it's been dated for December 18th of this year, I really, especially since they just brought on a new team behind the script and, the actual directing and stuff, and they've lost so many people, like the turnover has been crazy for this film. They've been trying to make a Masters of the Universe film for decades now. I feel like they've been able to relaunch animated series, and they even just did a new She-Ra show on Netflix, where I wasn't really too big on the look of the animation. But at least for now, December 18th, we have dated a new Masters of the Universe film. I'm really not confident that that's going to be happening. But if it does, I will most definitely be first in line. It's been described by the dudes on Shimozno and Collider that I love so much, Christian and Mark Ellis, where they're basically like, this is Lord of the Rings meets Star Wars. It could be badass. Mark, thanks so very much for tuning in briefly, man, and just giving a little listen, mate. I really, really greatly appreciate it. And yes, shout out to you and the other homies on the other side of the pond, man. Much love to you. Masters of the Universe, though, I'm not confident that on December 18th we are going to see a Masters of the Universe film. Nope, don't think it's happening. But if it does, I'm very curious as to how they'll be able to approach tone. And it'll obviously be PG-13. There's no doubts in my mind about that. But I think that, you could do a terrific Masters film. I love the original one. Really, I genuinely do. Even though they did the fish out of water thing and they jumped into our world, and they've got like He-Man eating Kentucky Fried Chicken and so on. Hey, Brandon, thanks so very much, man, for jumping on briefly. It's greatly appreciated. And, the rest of this video will be sitting here on the interwebs for everybody to check out afterwards. But I love that original Masters of the Universe film with Dolph Lundgren and with that great makeup work. It was truly badass. And, yeah, I think it is an unsung and underappreciated film. And revisiting the cartoon, it's really cheese, definitely for children. But if you all get the chance to check out those original comic books that they featured, like when you would buy one of those Mattel action figures, they would have a corresponding comic in there. The stuff with Snake Mountain and, oh goodness, man, the Hordak, awesome stuff. Really, really enjoyed it. So that is the number 12, the unofficial final entry in the the honorable mentions here. But so now for the rest of this video, for the remaining 30 minutes, since we just hit the 30-minute mark, the rest of the way, I'm just going to tell you guys about my 11 most anticipated films of 2019 that are not of the horror variety. So February 8th, so next month, y'all, we have, yes, Frank Langella looked awesome as Skeletor. His makeup work was badass. I loved all of those creatures that they sent out too, and like the weird little leader, blah 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 guy who like all the prosthetics and the makeup on those dudes, man, it looked seriously legit. But February 8th, I am extremely excited about the Lego Movie 2, the second part. Yeah, seriously, I did not think the Lego Movie was a good idea. I was of that camp. I was of that variety. I thought it was going to suck. I thought it was going to be terrible. And it ended up having so much more to say than I was anticipating. The animation was beautiful. It was silly. It was funny. And, you know, about everything is awesome, you know, and that song, the Tegan and Sarah song that, you know, was like the theme of it. I genuinely, and the fact that the message of the film was not to be just a brainless, just go with the flow type person, and the Will Ferrell cameo at the end. I mean, I really enjoyed the original Lego Movie. I also adored the Lego Batman movie, the Lego Ninjago. That's another story. But nonetheless, February 8th, we have the Lego Movie 2, the second part. I must admit, though, the trailers so far have not particularly won me over. I'm not as excited about it from watching the trailers as I was hoping I would be. But yeah, fingers firmly crossed, it's going to be great. And you know, just moving right along to the following month of March, when we have the live action Dumbo. Of all the live action things that we are getting this year from Disney, we're getting well, obviously, we're getting the Aladdin film that I'm not excited about. We're getting The Lion King, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm digging the fact that from the trailers I saw from Dumbo, first, it hits you in the feels significantly. Second, it's Tim Burton, and even though I wasn't a fan of Big Eyes, I was not a fan of his Alice in Wonderland. He's been more hit than miss with me since Big Fish, although I did really like Miss Peregrine and you know, the School for Gifted Goth Kids, or whatever the hell it was called, which you can find a review of here on Enfuegotainment that I did with the lovely Brandy. But yeah, nonetheless, yeah, Dumbo coming out March 29th. I really dig the cast, especially you've got Michael Keaton, you have Danny DeVito, you have Colin Farrell, and I'm super into it. Yeah, I'm into the fact that it looks like we're getting something distinctively different. Visually, it looks like it's falling in the Big Fish territory, and Big Fish is in my top 5, if not maybe my top 3 for Tim Burton. I adore Big Fish. If you guys are fans of Big Fish, please mention in the comments. So March 29th, my most anticipated Disney film of the year. I'm not going to lump Star Wars into Disney, even though they are owned. It's a Lucasfilm, and it's a Lucasfilm film. And yes, it's just owned by the Mouse. It's not of that particular production company. So very excited about that. Speaking about another film from the Mouse parent company, we have Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame is coming out April 26th. And of all of the Marvel movies coming this year, which we also have Spider-Man Far From Home that I mentioned earlier. We also have Captain Marvel, which I mentioned earlier. Captain Marvel being the first to arrive, actually, about a month before Avengers Endgame. I'm supremely excited about this because Infinity War really went for it when it's not that I wasn't expecting that it would, you know, but it genuinely, it was the Empire Strikes Back of the Avengers movies. That's for damn sure. I was not the biggest fan of Ultron. I thought it was pretty good, but not great. And this is just the ending of this in particular, where the hope is gone and stuff, but problem is for all of the casual fans who had no idea that there was another one coming after this, because remember, it was supposed to be, you know, part 1 and part 2, and then they decided to just retitle and do all these different things. The casual fan, they're like, oh, the snap, oh my goodness, blah, 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 so-and-so's gone, all these different crazy things have happened. But yes, Endgame, there's a lot of speculation about who is going to be like gone, like for reals. Place your bets. Is it going to be Robert Downey, or is it going to be Chris Evans? I don't know. But April 26th, I will most definitely be with Cecil and with Luis, and hopefully Dirk, and many of the other horror show homies to review Avengers Endgame here on Enfuegotainment. Another film that just came onto my radar because I was reading about it today. I was unaware that there is a film called Ad Astra, and this is a science fiction film. Love me some sci-fi. Even before I got deeper into horror, I mean, as a kid, Asimov and Heinlein and stuff like that. Yes, that was my jam. That was my go-to. And this film is apparently it has Donald Pleasance, it has Ruth Negga, it has Tommy Lee Jones, Brad Pitt, and it's about an astronaut, a spaceman, trying to track down his father, who went missing like 20 years ago after a mission to Neptune. And I'm very, very curious about this movie. James Gray, I believe, directing it. He's done We Own the Night, the Yards or the Yardling or something like that. Anyway, excuse me, peeps. I'm going to take a drink of my stuff here. But yeah, just that cast alone, I'm supremely intrigued by. Brad Pitt trying to find his father, played by Tommy Lee Jones, and it's presumably a beautifully filmed space movie. It's coming out in May, so people are saying some Interstellar vibes a little bit. So yeah, I'm very curious about Ad Astra. I don't know the proper pronunciation, but it's coming out May 24th. And ironically, that's the same day that another of my most anticipated, it's going to be a busy weekend for me there, Rocketman. Now, people had mixed feelings about the Bohemian Rhapsody, Rockin' You, and all that stuff. Some people were like, yeah, it's really a bare bones, behind the music gloss over of the life and times of Freddie Mercury and Queen. Valid points. Rocketman looks like it is of a very, very different flavor. Taron Egerton. Anyway, I can't remember the name of the actor, unfortunately, but it's the kid from Kingsman. He is the one who was playing a young Elton John. It's going to have tons and tons of different songs from the man in it. He's going on his goodbye Yellow Brick whatever tour right now. I love me some Elton John, whether it's early stuff like Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters or Tiny Dancer, both of which were featured in Almost Famous, which is one of my favorite films of all time. God damn, so amazing. Cameron Crowe for the win, yo. But or if it's something like much, much, much later in his career, like This Train Don't Stop Here Anymore, I adore that song. So I'm really curious how this is approaching less from like your standard biopic and more of like just fantasy and whimsy and adding a really psychedelic vibe to things, which I truly appreciate. So I'm curious to see what we get from Rocketman, coming out May 24th, the same day as that Brad Pitt sci-fi film that I was just talking about. Now, the next one it was one of my most anticipated superhero films from last year until it got delayed a grip of time, just like New Mutants. And there's a lot of speculation that the acquisition of Fox by Disney has put some snags in the Fox X-Men franchise and those films because of the fact that there's that transition going on, and they want to eventually incorporate that just massive amount of heroes into the regular Marvel universe. And Marvel is really getting everything that it wants lately, from the fact that they have that deal with Sony. There's speculation about whether there might be a Venom cameo in Far From Home. Who the hell knows? They're already fast-tracking Venom 2, and it was very successful, just like Aquaman. But Dark Phoenix is one that I am supremely stoked about. Simon Kinberg, first time actually directing an X-Men movie. I really like Sophie Turner, I want to say her name is. She's from Game of Thrones. She's a very foxy little redhead. And I dug the casting of her in Apocalypse, even if I didn't necessarily like a lot of the storytelling in X-Men Apocalypse. The presumed last time we will see Bryan Singer behind the camera for an X-Men movie with all the problems he's encountering with accusations and whatnot. He's got the Kevin Spacey effect going down. But I must say, I am pretty stoked, peeps, about the fact that, yeah, we are getting another take on Dark Phoenix after how bad The Last Stand was. Bringing in the Rush Hour director was such a bad move. I gotta say, really disappointing. And yes, it's going to close out this iteration, presumably, of, the McAvoy and Fassbender, and I don't even and Jennifer Lawrence, who I don't really think that highly of. She's been just forced down our throats in a lot of ways. But so yeah, of that particular pocket universe of the X films, this is presumably the last before things get rebooted to some degree and brought into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Disney and everything. So Dark Phoenix comes out June 7th, and I'm very, very curious about this film. The trailer that we saw looked amazing, and then the film was delayed like a massive amount of time. So look forward to that, everybody. June 7th, and then a few months later in August is when New Mutants supposedly will be coming out, unless it gets dumped on, some streaming service delayed again, massive reshoots, whatever. Anyway, next in August 9th to be specific, we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is the newest Tarantino film. It has Leonardo DiCaprio. It has Brad Pitt in this as well. It has Margot Robbie playing none other than Sharon Tate. Yeah, hopefully doing a better job than Miss Lizzie McGuire Duff herself in that Haunting of Sharon Tate that we did a trailer reaction for recently that looks like absolute shite. This is going to be a big epic, presumed close to 3-hour, interweaving multiple different stories. It's a period piece taking place in the late 60s. I cannot wait for this film. Legit. I must say, though, that I haven't loved a Tarantino film since Django, but I guess he's really only, I guess he's only done since then, The Hateful Eight, which was pretty good, but just not amazing. So I'm very stoked for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and August 9th cannot come quick enough. And yeah, we don't really know too much beyond that about the fact that it is going to have some historical basis and it's going to have interlocking stories. So it's going to be kind of the same vibe as Pulp Fiction to some degree. But yeah, come on, man. Even if you didn't love Jackie Brown or Inglourious Bastards, or between Reservoir Dogs and, Kill Bill Part 1 and obviously Pulp Fiction, come on, Tarantino is a genius. Next up, October 4th, we have the Joker movie. Todd Phillips, who initially everybody was like, oh, he's the Hangover director. But for me, Todd Phillips will always be the guy who did Old School and Road Trip, and when he was first getting his feet wet with just more of the purely comedic stuff before he did all those Hangover movies and milked the hell out of, squeezed blood from that stone, man. And he's moved into different stuff lately, like War Dogs. And so that's where people are very curious. And I don't want to use a term like hopeful, but with Joaquin Phoenix playing the Joker, that is inspired casting, in my estimation. It's going to be its own little side pocket universe, presumed R-rated sort of thing. I'm very, very curious. I've liked the set photos. But, only time will tell. And coming out in October, though, I feel like this movie is going to crush. A Joker solo picture. I guess there is the conflict of interest when you're thinking about Mr. 30 Seconds to Mars. And I actually did not hate Jared Leto's Joker in Suicide Squad. And there's presumably still working on After Birds of Prey. There's going to be a Margot Robbie and Jared Leto Joker movie. So who knows? I would imagine we'll see some Jared Leto in that Birds of Prey film. But yeah, Joker coming October 4th. Very curious about what that all is going to entail. The Killing Joke, where we got kind of a origin story of sorts. Alan Moore doing a tremendous job. That was very influential in the original Burton Batman. So yeah, guys, really, really wondering how that one is going to turn out. Next up, one of my favorite franchises of all time, but a franchise that, so the holy trinity of like shoot 'em up, sci-fi, horror for me of the 80s is the Terminator franchise, the Alien franchise, and the Predator franchise. And hey, Dino, thank you so very much for coming and listening to my ranting and ramblings for a little bit, brother. It really means a lot. And for the few that are watching, If you want to talk horror more extensively, Horror Town Facebook group on YouTube is super rad, and there's all kinds of peeps that I look up to and respect as far as just fellow contemporaries within, just the YouTube coverage of all things scarific and nerdtastic and so on. Terminator, though, very much like the Alien franchise, very much like the Predator franchise, has lost its way with recent entries, whether it was the Jenny Smith, whether it was, I was talking about this at work earlier today. I didn't mind Salvation. I actually really liked Rise of the Machines, but I did not like Terminator Genesis. And that was one that, especially with the talent, with bringing Arnie back, Jason Clarke, to Amelia. Oh boy, her name is eluding me at the moment. Anyway, there was a stacked cast for Terminator Genesis, and it kind of sucked. So same with the most recent Ridley Scott Alien movie, same with Shane Black's The Predator. All of these have been really disappointing. And so Terminator 6, tentatively titled Terminator, because we had The Terminator, that was the original one, Terminator 2, Terminator Genesis, Terminator Salvation, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, all these other things. At least the working title right now for this is Terminator. That's it. It's doing the retcon thing. Okay, so it's pulling a Halloween. It's a really popular trend right now in popular franchises and film and stuff like that to just say all of these never happened. All these sequels and whatevers, they never happened. They were originally going to be doing it with Neil Blomkamp's sequel to Alien that was supposed to bring back Michael Biehn, and it was going to bring back Sigourney Weaver, and I was so stoked for that. Disappointing about the way things transpired with that one. But Terminator 6 taking place in continuity after Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Those will be the only ones that factor into the equation here. Tim Miller, the director of the original Deadpool film, behind the camera, James Cameron producing. They did an extensive Q&A, the two of them, in Hollywood about the approach to this film. Linda Hamilton returning for the first time since Terminator 2. Arnie, obviously, returning again. Not sure exactly which whatever series he is actually playing in this, but he's got graying hair. The fact that there's real human tissue used on these on these killing machines, it can age. It can it can alter and degrade over time, and so we're presuming, just like with Genesis, that's kind of the approach that they're going with here. I like Mackenzie Davis a lot, actually, whether it's whatever the hell her name is, gets the across town. She was great in Tully. She was in Blade Runner 2049. She's a babe, and she's got some chops, man. She legitimately does, and she's versatile. I'm excited to see the passing of the torch from one action heroine to another, because it's presumably the Sarah Connor passing the baton to her character. It's taking place down in Mexico. The new evil Terminator is being played by the same guy who was Ghost Rider on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's a Hispanic dude. Remember how there was that Mexico connection in Terminator 1 and Terminator 2? They're apparently going to be pursuing that plot point, which I'm pretty intrigued by. So, on November 1st, at least tentatively for now, that is where the next Terminator film is going to be landing. But much like with my Masters of the Universe prediction earlier, I'm really not confident that this film is going to come out on that particular date. It is being filmed right now, so maybe it will. I would be super stoked if it does, but if I was going to lay a bet down, which I'm not particularly fond of doing, my money would not go on the fact that we are going to be seeing this new Terminator film in 2019, but it would be badass if we do. But don't rush it. Don't try to get it done before the end of the year if you want to take some more time to make sure the effects are good. Do your pickups and your reshoots and make sure everything is really on point. Don't rush this one. Please make sure that this is of optimum and proper quality. So now we get to the final film in my 11, yes, that's right, most anticipated films here on Enfuegotainment of 2019, and it's rather befitting because we're about to hit the last 10 minutes. And I touched on the property already, but my most, and it might be my most anticipated film of the entire year, aside from like Pet Sematary. And oh, you know what? I did totally jump over something. I'm an idiot, guys. Dated for November 8th. After James Bond 25 was pushed back, they dated the third in the Kingsman franchise for November 8th. This is presumably a prequel, so we will not be getting Eggies, and it's going to explore just the history of just the Kingsman organization. Now, while I love the first Kingsman movie, the Secret Service or whatever the hell they called it, I was not the biggest fan of the Golden Circle. Now, I still had fun with it. I still enjoyed it. I thought it was it was a fun film, but it went goofier. It really did. And it just was too cheese dick, too over the top. I did not like Julianne Moore as the villain. I was fascinated by getting the corresponding aspect of the Statesman and having all of that factor in. But as a whole, I did not enjoy that second Kingsman film anywhere near as much. Now, presumably, there is also a fourth Kingsman film in the works, according to Matthew Vaughn, the guy behind the adaptation of I'm trying to think of the name of the comic writer behind this. He also did Kick-Ass. It's losing me. I can't think of it, guys. I apologize, but yeah, both Kingsman and Kick-Ass. Matthew Vaughn behind that as well, if I remember correctly, at least the first one. Long story short, though, Kingsman 3 has been dated for the 8th of November. Once again, this is another release date that I would not be surprised if it is shifted around and does not come in 2019. But there is also a fourth film that will be a proper sequel, third being a prequel. So they're doing the Rise of the Lycans underworld type of approach where we get an original film, we get a sequel, and then we jump back for a prequel. I will be super stoked if we do, in fact, get this third Kingsman film on November 8th. So now to get to the final most anticipated of the year, which is the thing that I was about to start discussing here before shifting gears and then jumping back and making sure to mention Kingsman 3, is the fact that Episode 9, December 20th, I'm cautiously optimistic about J.J. Abrams coming back to direct. Now, I had a lot of problems with Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi, Episode 8. For my money, as I said earlier, the best of the post-George Lucas sale to Disney of the Star Wars franchise is Rogue One. I adore Rogue One. I really enjoyed The Force Awakens. I had some major problems with The Last Jedi, and I also had some major problems with Solo. But, in some ways, in some ways I liked Solo more, in some ways I did not. Solo was good enough, I guess, is the best way that I will describe it. But really nothing beyond that of major pertinence to mention. Episode 9, I'm really curious how they round out this trilogy. And then they're taking Star Wars in different directions from there. I'm really, really intrigued about the possibility of an Old Republic TV show. I'm very intrigued with all of the other potential things that they can do. The Mandalorian, holy shnikes, am I excited about The Mandalorian. So that looks badass. I'm very, very excited there. But Episode 9, December 20th, just getting the last of Rey's story and Poe. And I'm very, very, and also the send off for the beautiful, the talented, the Fuego adolescent wet dream, not to be super gross, but good Lord, dude. I mean, Return of the Jedi is still my absolute favorite Star Wars of all time. And it's not just because of slave girl Leia, but that was one of the reasons why. And also Ewoks and, Sarlacc and Jabba. I love Return of the Jedi more so than any other Star Wars thing. Empire's great, but, I'm on the side with Randall in the Clerks debate. As opposed to, going the Dante side. I love Return of the Jedi, and a Carrie Fisher send-off tribute. It's funny because this was supposed to be her movie, of the three OGs. It was going to be, okay, we have the Han focus in Force Awakens. We have the Luke focus in The Last Jedi. drinking his weird blue milk. Ryan Johnson, what the ferg were you thinking, man? And it was going to be the Carrie Fisher Leia show for this third one. Unfortunately, I would imagine with renewed success, she got some new drug money, and she got to it, which sucks. But yeah, I know they're going to be using some archival footage from Last Jedi and from Force Awakens, and so factoring that in, I'm intrigued. I'm saddened. I'm excited. I really, really love Daisy Ridley. I really love Adam Driver. I'm really curious how they're going to wrap all this up. Are we going to see an appearance by the Emperor resurrected? Are they going to bring Snoke back? Are they going to resurrect his ass? I don't know. We have no idea. Are we going to see Kylo Ren is he going to see redemption? Vader style? I don't know, but I am definitely curious. Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. It was a steaming pile of feces. It truly was. Massively disappointing, in fact. But I'm very, very hopeful for redemption with the 9th and the final entry of this new sequel trilogy. And then, really, Star Wars can go wherever the hell it wants, and I will follow. I will be supportive. I still am. I'm curious if we're going to get the Obi-Wan spinoff film. I'm curious if we're in, where they're going to go after Episode 9, besides the TV work and besides whatever we may see on Disney Plus. Beyond that, Disney Plus being the streaming service that's going to be debuting sometime this year. But yeah. So I'm not going to relist off that insane, massive list of honorable mentions and stuff, but my 11 most anticipated films of 2019 that we know of right now that are not horror, because if you want to see that, jump on the horror show. But in no particular order, we have the Lego Movie 2, the second part, coming out February 8th. We have Dumbo, Tim Burton, coming out March 29th. We have Avengers Endgame, coming out April 26th. We have Ad Astra, which is the Brad Pitt science fiction film that is coming out May 24th. We have Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic, coming out also on May 24th. Dark Phoenix, June 7th, the new X-Men movie and presumed close out to the First Class / Days of Future Past / Apocalypse iteration of the X-Men. We have the new Tarantino coming out August 9th, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We have Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, a standalone in its own universe continuity, Elseworlds sort of thing, which is coming out October 4th. Terminator 6, provided it actually does come out. Yeah, that's coming out November 1st, directed by Tim Miller, bringing back both Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Very exciting. Number 10, we have Kingsman 3, which will presumably be a Kingsman prequel. Very, very excited about that. Honorable mention, it's at least dated for December 18th right now, the Masters of the Universe film, but that's not of the official order because number 11, the 11th and final on this list, Star Wars Episode 9. We still don't have a trailer. We still don't have a proper title or anything, but yeah, December 20th, we will be seeing that final entry. So we have more viewers on here right now than we have the entire time, which is kind of funny. But so that is my 11 most anticipated non-horror films of 2019, guys. So I extend a grande gracias. I'm thankful that everybody is going to get the chance to take a look at this video in hindsight and see everything that I'm excited about here in this new year. Anybody who is still chilling, if you have just a random thought or something comment-wise that you want to throw out there, otherwise, I will probably be wrapping things up here. You can look forward to more Enfuegotainment coverage here in the coming days and weeks and months and everything. This being the most anticipated of 2019, and then my best of 2018 here from the Chiron Cavern were basically just two test videos of sorts. What I want to do is start doing this show live as just a proper, just most exciting news of the day of the nerd-tastic variety. And so that's something that I want to pursue. And then I'm also going to be doing some new non-horror reviews on here. So Friday will be a review of a new film that's not of the scarific variety. Thursday will be a throwback kind of, older film, at least probably 15 to 20 years old, if not more, decades old. I'll be exploring some films I've never seen before, as well as reviews for some of my favorite films of all time. That will be popping up on here as well. And then I have, for an eventual Patreon, I have a very detailed and set schedule where I want to do something called Animated Mondays. I want to do something called Music Tuesdays, because remember when albums used to come out on Tuesdays, for anybody who remembers that? Comic Book Wednesdays, where it's comic book coverage, not of the horror variety, the Retro Fuego review, and the Nuevo Fuego review being Thursday and Friday. And then I want to do something called South Park Saturdays. South Park is my favorite show of all time. And I really want to go back and start rewatching some of those older seasons and just reviewing and spreading the word about some of my favorite episodes of the show of all time. And then Sunday will be a day of rest, for the sheer fact that Sunday is when I rehearse with my band. It's when we do the predominance of the filming for the horror show and stuff like that. So, okay, Eric Griffin, throwing out a question. What would you think about an Event Horizon prequel about what happened in the ship? I would love to see that. But maybe more so than anything, I would love to see the uncut version of that film, because they filmed the stuff where they go into hell. And according, excuse me, to Paul W.S. Anderson, all that footage was lost. And it was apparently extremely graphic and crazy. We hear some of the audio track, and then we see flashes of some of it with the chains and all that craziness. But yeah, bring back Paul W.S. Anderson, or, do a comic book or something. Hell, I don't know. Deep Space is another one that a lot of people liken to Event Horizon. But if y'all have never seen Event Horizon, it's one of my favorite sci-fi horror films of all time. We did a commentary with producer Dave about it, and then we also did a film review. I believe that was a patron request as well. So, yeah, exciting stuff. Yep, I would love to see the uncut version too. Too bad it's potentially, according to Paul W.S. Anderson, never going to happen. So that's kind of a bummer. But in any event, if you dug this video, peeps, do the like thing, do the subscribe thing, hit the bell so you get a notification about when, from a newer Enfuegotainment set, some of that new content that I was just discussing starts rolling through the pipeline. I have been Jaime En Fuego, and you can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I definitely spend the predominance of my time on Twitter and Instagram, but Jaime is spelled like Jamie, kind of. JaimeEnfuego, and then obviously also here on YouTube. But more importantly, I can be seen more than any other just destination on the interwebs on The Horror Show at youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. We do 2 episodes a day currently, but we will be shifting for the beginning of season 6 to 1 episode a day, because it's going to be one main big topic episode. And then after that, it's going to be a bonus episode on Patreon. And I think it's like $1 or $2 for the Horror Show Patreon if you want to see all of that additional coverage and stuff like that. So yes, I know it's weird, the mentioning of different Patreon things and different whatevers. We will get some proper clarification as time goes by. But yes, the Horror Show, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want to see me covering spectacular content. But I would imagine if you're on here sitting to, me flapping my gums about hot entertainment with an edge, yeah, you've probably seen me on the Horror Show before. So once again, I extend that grande gracias. And yeah, I'm going to wrap things up now, y'all. So I'm not going to talk about the Wheel of Caw coming around once more. But until we get to see one another once again, hasta luego, Cinemigos. I'm hopeful that that reconnection transpires sooner rather than later. And yeah, I guess until we see each other again, hasta luego, adios, and peace out. I really need to think of a proper send-off for more of this Enfuegotainment stuff. So anyway, until then, y'all, peace. Thanks, y'all, for the couples that are still hanging. And yes, for anybody who is seeing this video after the fact, you all appreciate it. In the words of Pac.